Hey, welcome back, everybody. Great to see you. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful start to the week out there, and it's going to be a pretty active one in the weather world as we have a pretty big time storm system crossing the country. And this is going to bring everything from heavy rainfall, a severe weather threat, a snowfall threat, and a very high wind threat as well as it crosses really the entire East Coast here in the early to middle part of the week. And then after that, we're going to see another cool down, and that could be followed by more storminess. And we'll even give you a little sneak peek forecast towards Christmas time and kind of what we're seeing right now as we look well out ahead into the future. Now, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and do so. Hit that bell for the latest notifications, like the video, and comment. Let me know where you're watching from and what you're seeing out there on this Monday. Alrighty, folks, with that said, let's go ahead and dive on into things. And starting with our satellite loop, taking a look at upper level water vapor, you can already kind of see where the mess is. We've got this big plume of moisture through much of the eastern half of the country right now. That is leading to some pretty potent rainfall and even some snowfall for some folks. Here on your Monday, and we'll add even more snow here into portions of New England later on this afternoon and into this evening. So things are already kicking up right now, but what I want you to notice is kind of back here, see this like slowly oozing little piece that is kind of moving southward. That is our polar air behind what is going to become a front right into here. And that is what's going to fire off our next storm system, bringing really all of those impacts I mentioned. Now, what we're seeing right now is kind of an appetizer, if you will. It's kind of a piece of energy before the main piece, but still bringing impacts out there. And you can see that well on our radar imagery this morning. We've got rain from portions of Michigan all the way back down here into the southeast, really extending all the way back down into the New Orleans area. So definitely a little feisty, precursor event, if you will, that is leading to some pretty heavy rainfall through the mid-Atlantic up towards Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and some of the first rain we've seen in these places in a while. It has been so cold. We are getting a warm up right now ahead of that next cold shot. And this is what I mentioned. I've been talking about this a little bit. I think December and the rest of the month is really going to be kind of a roller coaster month. We had a big cool down at the start. Now we're seeing a big warm up, and then we're going to have another big cool down later this week, followed likely by another big warm up. And I think that's really probably the best way to summarize the rest of the month. But like I said, a lot of rain in here. You'll also notice some pink showing up, indicating some ice here into the higher terrains of central Pennsylvania. I do think we are going to have an ice and snowfall threat this afternoon in portions of New England. We will talk about that. But we're already seeing some of that snow up into Canada. In fact, I had reports yesterday of big time snow up into northern Minnesota, into portions of the UP of Michigan. And out here near Thunder Bay, Ontario, definitely getting plenty of it. Greater Sunbury or Sudbury. And by the way, if I mispronounce any names in the United States or Canada, I do apologize. Feel free to correct me in the comments. I will try to learn. It is always something I do try to prioritize, is pronouncing people's towns right. But, I'm human after all. Either way, though, like I mentioned, big band of snow up there, definitely. And then we even have some snow showers back out into the northern plains and the Rockies, from Denver up through Billings, Montana, into Bismarck, Pierre, Rapid City, and plenty of other areas in the region, seeing some snow showers as that kind of next shot of cold air is working in and creating just enough lift for some snow showers into the northern tier of the United States. Now, watches, warnings, advisories, plenty of them. In fact, we've got a big area of winter weather advisories into New England, including Concord, Montpelier, Augusta, Maine, and even, I think, down into Portland, Maine as well under those winter weather advisories. All of that rain we're seeing right now in the mid-Atlantic is going to overlap what is still cold enough for winter precipitation up here and even up into the Adirondacks as well, is likely going to get some winter precipitation this afternoon. And I'll definitely show that to you. Now, other than that, things kind of quiet for right now through much of the eastern half of the country. The I-95 corridor, no watches, warnings, advisories from New York down really to Miami. And then same thing through the Ohio and Tennessee Valley. That will change, though. As we go into tomorrow, I am expecting a bump up of wind advisories, high wind warnings, some winter weather advisories, maybe even some winter storm watches in effect for places as the storm begins to crank up. Now, we are still seeing those winter weather conditions back into the northern plains and those windy conditions. Like I said, that will be a threat here. All those wind advisories and high wind warnings in kind of the beige and mustard or a Dijon color, I guess, I think is what somebody told me it is. And then the winter weather advisories in the purple and pink up into the northern plains. And that's kind of what we're seeing out there. Also kind of active into California. We've got some fog and some fire weather danger out here into Southern California. So if you're watching that way, definitely keeping an eye on that for you folks as well. All right, meteorology in minutes, aka let's just kind of time this thing out for you with our vorticity map. Again, 500 millibar height vorticity. This is vorticity about halfway up in the atmosphere, or I'll take a sounding and give you an exact distance. It is a little less than 6 kilometers. So convert that to miles. That's going to be about 3 miles, a little less than that, I think, or maybe a little more than that, actually. So maybe we'll say 3.5 miles up or so in the atmosphere. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, taking a look at it, we do have, like I said, a little bit of vorticity this morning crossing the Ohio and Tennessee Valley. That is leading to a lot of diffluence here over the region, thus why we're getting all of that lift and all of this precipitation. Again, the thing I love about meteorology is at the end of the day, it is all connected, and that's what makes it so fun to talk about with you folks and to learn about. Either way, though, that little piece of energy over the Ohio Valley moving off towards New England this afternoon, that's going to bring that lift into the region, and that's what's going to kind of fire off some of that winter precipitation that we talked about. But notice what's happening behind it. We have a very well-defined area of vorticity here. This tells me, and we have a bit of an enhancement in the jet stream in here, and that also tells me that that's where our boundary is. We've got that cold air on the north side, and we have that warmer Gulf air on the south side, so it's pretty easy to find where these two are clashing. This is this afternoon. Now, we move this further ahead into time. We get overnight tonight, that first little piece of energy moving through the northeast, bringing winter weather, and then our next piece beginning to dig southward, as we say, just meaning that this overall troughing getting all the way down towards the four corners. And like I said, here's your boundary. It's right where this vorticity is getting enhanced from Texas all the way up to Michigan. Not hard to find on the map at all. Starts very positively tilted, though, and generally that means the storm is still cranking up. That means our energy is not fully maximizing itself, but it will as it begins to turn neutral, becoming neutrally tilted. This is Wednesday afternoon over Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas, seeing the bottom of this trough, and this will lead to severe weather Wednesday afternoon, I think, from portions of eastern Virginia and the eastern Carolinas. These are going to be, pretty feisty storms, and I think a very strong QLCS or quasi-linear convective system, if you want the fancy terminology behind it, just meaning a big old squall line likely going to work through that region as this trough dips, cranks up, and tilts negatively. And it's once this negative tilt begins that we likely begin to see a change over from rain to snow with our storm system somewhere from the Alps all the way up into the Northeast. Now, where that is, models are still bickering a little bit, folks, and I'll tell you, we're getting closer and closer to the event. They still have not quite figured it out, so we're going to hope that they do. And we will, definitely break that down a little bit more in depth. In fact, I may go live at some point over the next day or two. We will see what Wednesday looks like, or maybe even tomorrow night. I'll have to check my schedule. But I may try to go live and break that down and all of the differences in the models. We'll see if we can get that done. But either way, becoming negatively tilted, this is when the storm will be entering its maximum state. This is whenever we will likely get down towards 990 millibars, maybe even kiss the 980s. This is when wind will be the strongest. Like I said, that change over to snow, and that same kind of convective line or squall line will likely be screaming through portions of southern New England here Wednesday night before eventually all this clears out by Thursday, and then we're just left with some cooler weather on the backside. Now, another threat with this is going to be severe weather starting as early as tomorrow. So Tuesday afternoon, we do have a marginal risk down here from Pensacola, Destin, Panama City, all the way up towards Albany, Georgia, Macon, Columbus, and then Montgomery, even into Auburn, Alabama, and Mobile under the threat for a couple strong storms. And I tell you, I think a couple tornadoes are going to be possible. Storm Prediction Center agrees here with a 2% chance of a tornado within a 25-mile radius. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but 2% is a lot more than 0%, which is what it probably is on a normal day. So this is definitely something that we're going to need to watch for and keep an eye on. Now, as of right now, they have nothing for day 3, but I'll tell you, I think especially if our storm system slows down any out here towards the Outer Banks, the I-95 corridor eastbound into North Carolina, southeastern Virginia, and maybe even northeastern South Carolina. Or I might have said northeastern South Carolina, but we'll say Horry County northbound up through the Outer Banks into the Virginia Beach area, and maybe even down into the Delmarva. Do not be surprised to see a couple strong storms here on your Wednesday afternoon. I think some of the models are beginning to hint at that for sure. All right, let's go ahead and probably should have switched the maps here actually, but we'll go ahead and break down this first off. Well, no, because we have the Tuesday threat, so that's right. It's right in my head. Let's go ahead and break down what's happening right now and through the rest of today. So like I said, showers and, kind of just a dreary day through the mid-Atlantic and the southeast. Now, we get into later this afternoon, about 3 p.m. Eastern. This is when some snow breaks out into the interior Northeast. We've still got snow falling into Ontario as we have a pretty good little low pressure system over the upper peninsula of Michigan. And we'll go through the rest of today. Like I said, those showers turning into snow showers as they move up into the Northeast. A little bit of ice as well, and I'll show you that map in a moment. We get to this evening, though, and really still just kind of a mess out there. Now, not everyone's going to see heavy rain all day. In fact, probably not anybody's going to see heavy rain all day, but many folks are going to see this showery, kind of just dreary day from the southeast up through the mid-Atlantic, and that continues overnight tonight. Now, by the time we're getting into tomorrow morning, I'll also mention overnight tonight, that snow continuing into interior New England, but by the time we're waking up Tuesday morning about 7, 8 a.m., this is when our actual storm system really begins to crank up. Our boundary will be kind of locked into place right into here, and you'll notice all of this Gulf moisture extending out ahead of it, and we're going to begin to see plenty of showers form tomorrow morning, or really continue from what's happening today into the southeast. That's when the severe weather threat will increase in that area we mentioned, from Alabama to Georgia, potentially even up into the Carolinas. I think by tomorrow afternoon and evening, we're going to have plenty of wind shear. The question will be, can we get enough instability in a couple places? And I think that's definitely a possibility in South Carolina, maybe even North Carolina, and up through much of Georgia for your Tuesday afternoon. But either way, a rainy mess for Tuesday. And then we get into Tuesday evening, you'll notice also a little bit of ice up here in the Northeast. See that little bit of pink showing up there? We still have some of that cold air left over from this big cold shot that we've had. So if any of that is left at the surface and this warm air tries to ride up and over that, could see a light freezing rain event for your Tuesday evening, potentially into southern New Hampshire, down into Maine. We'll need to watch that. Same story for you folks up into Canada, a bit of an icy, wintry mess as well, really starting Tuesday afternoon. Now, Tuesday evening into the overnight, getting into Wednesday morning. Again, here is kind of round one, and this is going to kind of be wave after wave of low pressure. So here's the first wave, going to be all rain for everybody. You'll see the second wave developing down south, though, and that'll be the Wednesday storm, and that's the one that could eventually change over to snow. Now, that's as far out as the mesoscale model goes, so let's quickly break down the snow and the ice in the near term, and then we'll kind of talk about the storm itself. So here we go. This is snowfall now through overnight tomorrow night. And you'll notice, a pretty good little section here up into New Hampshire, Vermont, even up into the Adirondacks and into the southern half of Maine. I think overall 1 to 3 inches for most folks, but a couple people getting 3+ inches definitely going to be a possibility, especially in the higher elevations here of New Hampshire and Maine. Again, kind of on the southwestern side of the state there. Now, that's not the only threat, though. I am watching for ice. Now, not expecting a ton, but I do think some places in here now through Thursday morning. So this could be with what's happening today, as well as maybe tomorrow morning, some kind of lift there with that warm advection over that cold air. Some people could get more than nothing. I mean, we've got a couple places on the blend here getting more than 1/10 of an inch of ice. That would be more than enough to cause problems down here to southern Ontario as well. You'll notice a little section of some icing in here. So I definitely want you to take that as a precaution. Do be aware there is an ice threat with this overall setup, and ice you cannot drive on. Snow, you folks up there, I'm sure can drive on. You're used to it, but ice, nobody can really drive on. So just make sure that you're taking those precautions and looking out for that potential. Now, the actual storm itself, like I said, kind of what we're seeing the next day is really just kind of the precursor. We'll pick up where we left off here. We were on Wednesday at about 6Z, just meaning about 1 in the morning Wednesday. And here we go. Like I said, here's the first wave. That kind of begins to move up into Canada, but another wave beginning to develop. And this will once again bring some heavy rain into the southeast, as well as a Wednesday afternoon severe weather threat. So this is Wednesday morning. And I'll mention, this is the GFS, by the way. We'll show you the European as well, because there are some differences for sure. Wednesday morning, though, the GFS already trying to break out some snow on the cold side of the storm into eastern Kentucky, portions of Ohio, and then getting into Appalachia. At the same time, like I said, here's a heavy squall line back down into the Carolinas, likely crossing through the Charlotte metro Wednesday morning. Eventually, by Wednesday afternoon, if we move this ahead a little bit, getting eastbound. Now, this is when things really go downhill, I think, travel-wise. We've got a feisty low pressure. I mean, 994 millibars, folks. That's not nothing. And if I just look at this, we've got a powerful cold front extending all the way down here into the Carolinas. And as that cold air advects on the backside of this, again, kind of here's your setup from the low. We're beginning to get that change over to snow on the cold side. Now, the GFS says we're going to have a full band of snow from, we'll say, the Tri-Cities of Tennessee all the way up into West Virginia and western Pennsylvania, even into the Buffalo area. And as that's happening, like I said, severe weather into the eastern portion of North Carolina, southeastern Virginia. We get into the evening, and it is an all-out mess in the Northeast here, travel-wise. For your Thursday, we've got snow into the interior Northeast. We've got rain along the I-95 corridor and very gusty winds. Isolated tornado threat, I would say, with this. Very strong straight line wind threat into portions of the I-95 corridor. Now, the tornado threat will not be off the charts, but I do expect a spin up or two with this much wind energy, or this high of a kinematic support, as we say, in the meteorology field. Will definitely be something to monitor. But like I said, on the backside, we've got plenty of snow breaking out. We've got snow accumulating through the mountains of Pennsylvania, the mountains of New York. This is Wednesday evening, like I mentioned. We go a little bit further ahead in a time here. We'll get this towards your Thursday, overnight, Wednesday into Thursday, I should say. The squall line or the messy weather kind of begins to kick out of here, but then that cold air advection begins and the lake effect begins to take a hold, and even some northwest flow down into West Virginia, and potentially even into the mountains of North Carolina as the storm really bombs out and pulls up into Canada. And becomes quite the storm for you folks, with plenty of rain and snow depending on where you're at. Rain for the maritime provinces, snow for areas further back into Ontario, and then the lake effect machine just holds on for a while, and another storm potential maybe by the end of the week, which we will discuss. All right, that was the GFS. What about the European? Well, we'll pick it up Tuesday afternoon here into Wednesday. Wednesday morning, it's a similar story, a mess of rain, but notice we don't have any of the snow on the European that the GFS had. The GFS had a band of snow breaking out into Ohio, Kentucky. European does not have that, just has the rain threat and continues that rain threat into Wednesday afternoon. Now, eventually, later on into the afternoon on Wednesday, we are seeing a change over to snow, but it's not a lot, folks. In fact, it's more lake effect than anything. We've got some snow breaking out into the mountains of Pennsylvania on the European. Same story here with that big time squall line all the way down into North Carolina. I will definitely mention that for your Wednesday afternoon. And then this storm continues to move up into New England. Very strong winds, very heavy rainfall, kind of really an atmospheric river pumping into portions of southern New England for your Wednesday evening. And definitely, again, seeing snow break out into the Catskills, the Adirondacks, more favored high elevation areas behind the low pressure. And you can see this cold air, it's trying to catch up here. I'm sorry, did not mean to take a sounding. You can see it's definitely trying to catch up. We have this very negatively tilted trough indicating strong cold air advection. So to the GFS's point, this isn't, average cold air advection that's slowly working in behind. No, this is kind of pumping it for sure pretty quickly. So I do think we will see a change over to snow for places. The question is, though, is it going to be like the GFS says, and it's going to be a lot of people that get it, or is it going to be like the European that, only maybe these higher elevations of the interior Northeast see that? And then either way, no matter what, both models do suggest big time return to lake effect by your Thursday afternoon here from Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Superior, Huron, and Michigan, really all of them getting in on the action. And that cold air really settles in and locks in for a while, and then potentially another storm trying to form back out into the plains by the weekend. All right, I do want to talk about wind really quickly, and I do think it will be a threat. I think power outages will definitely be a concern. Here we go, wind gusts. This is Wednesday morning. We'll pick up here. Already getting gusty down into the Carolinas, gusting near 30, 40 miles an hour at times. Now, some people see a little higher, some people see a little less. That's just the way it goes with wind. But you can definitely see that winds are picking up. Now, by the time we get to Wednesday afternoon, winds really begin to pick up and really become feisty by the evening here into the Northeast. Places like New Jersey, Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island. We're talking wind gusts to 40, 50, even 60 plus by Wednesday evening here. Some places here, I think along the beaches and some of those more exposed areas, we could be gusting up into the mid 60s, would not surprise me. And that continues as this powerful low pressure deepens. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. I am expecting power outages overnight Wednesday into Thursday. We've got very strong wind gusts here, well into tropical storm force strength, and even some feisty winds behind this as that wind and that cold air kind of work on into the eastern half of the country. And all of that wind even getting up into Maine by overnight Wednesday into Thursday. And by Thursday morning, beginning to calm down, but still quite a breezy day on a Thursday. I'll tell you, I do think the storm's going to catch some people off guard. I think a lot of people, are not maybe super paying attention to it all that much, but I do expect impacts for plenty of people up and down the eastern seaboard. And that does include snow. Now, the snow forecast is a little bit more difficult than the wind forecast. I feel confident on the folks I just talked about getting strong winds getting it. Snow, a little bit tougher. Now, if we look at the GFS and its ensembles, and we kind of get the blend of them, we do have a pretty, big area of snow here from the interior portions of the Northeast through Vermont, New Hampshire, all the way down the Appalachia chain into North Carolina. In fact, GFS is calling for 2-3+ inches of snow down into western North Carolina and into eastern Tennessee, up into the mountains of West Virginia, half a foot in places, and then plenty into the interior Northeast. And then, like we mentioned, also that lake effect. Now, the European and its ensembles, not so excited. So let me go back. This is the GFS. Take a look at it, soak it all in. Here's the European. Now, the biggest difference is down here into western North Carolina, Tennessee, and then into the Virginias, where the European has a lot less snow. Still has snow into the interior Northeast from portions of upstate New York into Vermont, New Hampshire, back down into even the mountains of Pennsylvania. But I go back to the GFS, and it's very big difference on the totals. So it's going to definitely be something we need to watch. Now, when we get to tomorrow's video, we're going to be a lot more in the mesoscale range, and I think we'll know a lot more. We can start looking at the HRRR and the NAM a little more in depth, as they will be in a more reliable time frame. But either way, I do expect snow on the backside of the storm with this kind of antifrontal setup, and then I definitely expect snow from that lake effect after the storm works on through for your Thursday. That lake effect will definitely be ramping on up. Now, like I mentioned, after the fact, we are watching another storm system. So here's the big storm we just talked about. That gets on out of here. And then we go into our Friday afternoon, and another little piece of energy working out of the Pacific side of things and gets into the plains. Now, as this is happening, folks, we still got very cold air left over. In fact, we have a very strong cold air damming signal here all the way down to the Carolinas. So I'm expecting a very chilly Thursday, a very chilly Friday. And I think one of the questions is, how does this next storm system interact with that cold air, or does it at all? Now, right now, the model suggests a pretty good band of snow, at least on the GFS here, breaking out from Iowa through Wisconsin, even into Michigan, Friday into Saturday, and trying to get into the Northeast, and then kind of just rain to the south of there, and then maybe cranking up off the coastline. That's the GFS. I guess I can show you the European as well while we're here. I did not pull it up, but I definitely can on the fly. So here we go with the European. There's the big storm we just talked about, and then that cold air. And here comes the next one. Actually pretty similar to the GFS, all things considered, getting some of that snow up into Wisconsin, Michigan, and rain to the south. But one thing I do want to watch out for is, due to this high pressure and all this cold air getting kind of trapped into Appalachia, we could see some icing concerns into the mountains of maybe West Virginia, potentially North Carolina, by later this weekend, if this precipitation can override that cold shield. And that happens pretty often. And sometimes the models will underdo the kind of cold air setup and we'll get ice whenever you're not really expecting it. So definitely a setup that we'll watch for. Nothing to be super concerned about right now, but something that is on the back burner as we get a little bit closer and once we get towards this weekend. Now, what about the long run? What about Christmas? Are we going to see a white Christmas? I'm sure that's a question many of you have. Well, the simple and easy answer is I don't know. In fact, nobody knows if your exact location will get a white Christmas unless, maybe you just got 4 feet of snow in the Tug Hill. Then, yeah, you're probably still going to have snow left around for Christmas. But elsewhere, let's take a look at the pattern now. This big blue blob you're seeing, that's the storm system that's about to work on through. That's the cold air associated with it. After that, like I mentioned, I think this weekend we do get another, little system to work on through. That's the one we just talked about. And you can see that there's a little bit of troughing in here kind of mixed within this overall ridge. And that definitely will bring some sort of active weather. Like I said, could it be ice? Could it be snow? Could it be rain? We'll see depending on your location. After that, though, by the time we get about a week from now, I do expect a bit of a warmer period, probably a couple days of it. And then after that, we get about 7, 8, 9, 10 days from now, another area of some troughing. You'll notice this blue in the southeast showing up. That once again could return some stormier, cooler weather. And the GFS wants to kind of hang on to that idea all the way out into Christmas. This gets us to the 20th of December. Notice that blue in the southeast, red out west, and that kind of just continues for a while here towards the Christmas holiday. Now, does that mean we're going to see a snowstorm for Christmas? Like I said, I don't know. Nobody knows, but it could be a lot worse of a look. It doesn't look like a torch per se. I do think we could still squeeze out some snow towards the Christmas time period. Now, in terms of temperature anomalies, Like I said, we're going to get this big warm up right now ahead of this next storm, and then the hammer drops. We're back in the freezer and likely stay chilly through the weekend, especially in those cold air damming prone areas. Then a slight warm up next week, and after that, at least a slight warm up early next week. Then after that, the models again try to go back to cooler temperatures in the eastern half of the country while we stay out west, or warmer out west, a little bit closer to Christmas. So that's what I got for you folks on this Monday. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, definitely go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. Like the video and comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Also, I will mention I did want to thank David Poplin, donated to the channel yesterday. So thank you, David. I should have said that at the beginning of the video. If you made it this far, though, I do appreciate that. Means a lot. And something else I was going to say, which was, I know I have not been very active in the comments. This was finals week for me. So that was kind of a mental and physical challenge, honestly. And then I kind of just spent the weekend recuperating. But now it's Monday. It's a new week. I will try my best to get back in there and interact with you folks a little bit more. So with that said, y'all have a great one. Stay safe out there. And I'll see you all tomorrow.